What if I told you that caring what people think has nothing to do with insecurity and everything to do with your identity? I used to be trapped by the fear of what other people thought about me. After making these 5 mindset shifts.
What if I told you that caring what people think has nothing to do with insecurity and everything to do with your identity? I used to be trapped by the fearful other people thought about me. After making these 5 mindset shifts, I woke up one day and realized I didn't need anyone's approval anymore. I had been trapped chasing applause, validation, the echo of other people's approval. But now, I'm steering my life by a compass that only I get to hold. And I don't mean that in some calm, meditative way. I mean with the ferocity of someone who refuses to be controlled. I'm here to tell you that if you want to own your life, if you're sick of bending to what others want you to be, you have to detach emotionally. And it begins the second you stop giving a damn about someone's thumb up or comment or fleeting cheer. You talk to me about applause. It's not a map. It's not direction. It's a reflection, a mirror held up to someone else's values, someone else's entertainment, not your truth. Praise doesn't mean you're right. It means they see you in a certain way. And guess what? Sometimes that way is someone else's projection. And that's dangerous if you're the kind of person who lets applause steer the wheel of your life. Let me tell you about that video on branding I almost made, where the team came to me and said, "We want you to do it." And inside my gut got that acidity, not in the stomach feeling. Like I was pushing a boulder, a pill that didn't belong to me. I finished, showed it, and I felt immediately that something was off. I said, "I don't love it." And you know what? I canceled it. I didn't apologize. I didn't cave. I pulled the plug because it didn't resonate, and people still loved what I had to say. But that approval, it belonged to them, not me. I let it go. And it didn't ruin me. It freed me. Think about how social media warps everything. Applause becomes addictive. It's dopamine on a loop. And building a business, building yourself, building anything, the second people start to see you, the easier it is to get hooked. But no, just because there's praise doesn't mean you keep doing the thing. That praise might be someone projecting on you, someone wanting the story they want, not what you stand for. So you have to ask yourself, is what they're applauding in line with your values? Because if it'd double down, but if it's not, detach. Let it float away. Applause is not your authority, it's their reaction. Now feel this. Maybe they loved what you wore, what you posted, how you spoke, what you cooked. That's their interpretation and preference, not necessarily yours. So here's where you get real. Ask yourself, does that applause align with what I value? Does it move me closer to what I want? If yes, run with it. If not, let it go. You do not need their validation. You don't need to keep showing up just to feed someone else's expectation. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean you're cold. It means you refuse to live in someone's echo. You choose your own tone. You pick your own path, even if it jangles with theirs. I'm not telling you this in a whisper. I'm shouting it because you need to feel this shift in your gut. Because let me be clear, this is not easy. You'll feel the pull. You'll feel the anchor of validation in your chest. But that rush, it's not your fire, it's someone else's spotlight. So burn your own fire. Let their cheers fade, including mine, if they ever come. I'd rather you walk away from that than let it guide you. So right now you have 2 choices. Keep chasing applause. Let it steer your narrative. Keep living in their lens. Or you detach. It's terrifying. But terrifying is the sound of your voice reclaiming the narrative. It's the sound of saying, I'm doing this because I choose it, not because it'll get me a reaction. If you want to stop needing external validation, you detach. You let go. You feel the hunger of silence as confirmation. Because real confirmation doesn't come from cheers. It comes from your alignment to purpose. I don't want you to nod along and feel good. I want you to understand the angle of fire here. When applause is gone, what do you build with your hands? That's what matters. Not the reflection, but the foundation. Now stay with me, because I'm not done shouting this from the mountain. Learn to breathe under that silence. Learn to believe in your direction when it's only you who knows it. Because that's where freedom lives. You're not broken for wanting applause. You're human. But now, you don't need it, because you're standing in your conviction, landing your own truth. So when someone cheers, thank them. But don't give up your steering wheel. Keep going on the road that only you can walk. We don't even realize how much of our life we hand over to other people's preferences. Someone likes something we post online and immediately we start thinking, I should only make posts like that. Forget all the other stuff I actually enjoy. Someone likes how we behave in a relationship and suddenly we double down on that one behavior even if it drains us, even if we hate it. We abandon the things that light us up because someone else gave us a thumbs up. And here's the truth: nobody likes to met preferences, especially other people's preferences, are not built on principles. They're built on emotions, and emotions shift like the wind. Values, on the other hand, are rooted in principles. They're steady, they're who you are when no one's watching. And if you're always running after someone else's preferences, you're not living by your values. You're living by their feelings. That's not life. That's performance. That's you becoming a person who exists to please, not a person who exists to live. And this doesn't just happen online. It happens everywhere, all the freaking time. People want us to talk a certain way, dress a certain way, run our business a certain way. They want us to behave in ways that make them comfortable, not in ways that make us fulfilled. And they don't even know why they want it. It's not because they value it. It's because they like it. And what people like is temporary. It's emotional. It's fickle. But we cave to it because it feels good in the moment to be liked, to be approved of. And then months later, we wake up resentful. We wake up wondering why we feel less like ourselves and more like a watered down version than we used to be. I've seen it in relationships 1,000 times. You do one nice thing for your partner. Maybe you cook dinner one night, even though you hate cooking. And they light up. They say, "Oh my gosh, I'd love it if you did this every night." And instead of being honest about what you enjoy, you think, you know what? I'll just do it because they like it. And then it becomes an expectation. You're serving their preferences, not your values. Over time, you're tired, frustrated, disconnected from yourself. And that resentment doesn't stay hidden. It leaks, it builds. It poisons you from the inside out. You start resenting the very people you wanted to please. They don't even realize it's happening. You might not even realize it's happening until one day you just snap. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. While we're busy bending ourselves into shapes to get applause, we're also terrified of criticism. But you have to reframe what criticism really is. Most criticism has nothing to do with you. It's about the person giving it. It's their discomfort spilling out. People judge what challenges them. When you do something they can't imagine themselves doing, or something that threatens their view of how the world should work, they react. Not to fix you, but to regulate their own emotions. They're not saying, "You're wrong." They're really saying, "I feel uncomfortable because you're not fitting into my box." I'll give you a real example. I'm scrolling one day and someone sends me a post. Some woman is tearing me apart online, saying she hates how I run my business. She says it's too masculine, that I'd succeed more if I softened up, acted differently, maybe acted more like her. And I'm watching this video, listening to her dismantle me in real time. And let me be honest, my first reaction, I wanted to go nuclear. For about 5 seconds, I thought, I could roast her right now. I could destroy every point she's making. I could clap back so hard she'd never speak on my name again. And you know what that reaction really was? My ego, my pride. But then I caught myself. I thought, wait a minute. Why does she even care? Why does she feel the need to post this? And then it clicked. She feels uncomfortable because I'm succeeding in a way that doesn't match her worldview. She wants me to succeed the way she would succeed, not the way I succeed. She doesn't want me to be me. She wants me to be her. And that's when I realized something huge. Criticism is not a reflection of my value. It's a reflection of their emotions. It's their inability to process my success on my terms. And the moment you realize that, the weight of criticism just falls off your shoulders. Because suddenly, you're not personalizing it anymore. You're not carrying their discomfort like it's your responsibility to fix. You're just watching them reveal their own insecurities. And once you see it like that, you actually start to feel compassion for them instead of anger. They're not mad at you. They're mad at the mirror you're holding up because you're showing them what's possible outside of their rules. But here's the thing, you can't get to that place of power unless you stop living for applause in the first place. If you're addicted to people's approval, criticism will crush you. If you're always chasing their preferences, disapproval will feel like death. But when you root yourself in your own values, when you know who you are, applause and criticism start to feel exactly the same, just noise, just data. Not direction. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's necessary. Because the alternative is living your whole life as a reflection of what other people like, never stepping fully into who you are, always resenting the very people you're trying to please. That's no way to live. And I'm telling you from experience, the second you decide that your values are the only compass you're going to use, the second you stop letting other people's emotions dictate your choices, everything changes. You become unstoppable. You become magnetic because people can feel when you're living for yourself and not for their applause. And the irony, when you stop casing their approval, the right people respect you more. The wrong people fall away. And you finally get to live like you, not like a performance of you. She made that post about me because something about the way I live, the way I succeed, the way I refuse to fit into her picture. It made her uncomfortable. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, instead of asking herself why it bothered her, she outsourced it. She had to throw it back at me. She had to label it, criticize it, diminish it, because it was easier than looking at herself. And you know what hit me? I had that same exact urge toward her. I saw her dismantling people, being harsh, being cruel, and yet still succeeding. And it made me furious. It made me want to tear her down. I didn't like the fact that someone who goes around talking about other people in that way could still win. That didn't fit my worldview. It didn't fit the story I'd always told myself. That mean people fail, that cruel people get what's coming to them, that bad people don't get to make money. But life doesn't care about that story. That story isn't real. And I was forced to see my own hypocrisy. I had this massive preference, this deep belief that the world should punish people who are unkind. And when it didn't, when I saw someone succeeding who didn't meet my standard of good, I hated it. I judged her. Just like she judged me. It was two people, both uncomfortable with the other person's way of living. Two people projecting their own values, their own discomfort onto each other. That was a punch in the gut. Because suddenly, I had to admit that I wasn't better than her just because I stayed quiet longer before speaking. I had to admit that I judged too. I criticized too. I feel that same discomfort and I've lashed out. And that's when it really clicked for me. Criticism isn't always about truth. Most of the time, it's about discomfort. You do something that makes someone feel uneasy, and instead of dealing with that unease, they try to make it your problem. They blame you. They label you. They diminish you because it helps them regulate their emotions. They're not asking if you're right or wrong. They're asking themselves why it bothers them so much. They just don't say it out loud. And let's be honest, judgment is just another word for unmanaged discomfort. That's it. We all do it. I do it. You do it. Nobody's immune. But here's where things change for me. When someone criticizes you, stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what belief of theirs does this contradict? What story of theirs did I just ruin? And then go deeper. What exactly did I do that made them feel this uncomfortable? Because when you break it down like that, it stops feeling like a personal attack and starts feeling like data. You stop bleeding from every comment. You stop flinching every time someone comes at you sideways. It doesn't mean it feels good. Criticism stings. Let's not pretend it doesn't. It stings worse than praise feels good. It punches you in the chest because it feels like rejection, like someone is denying your existence. But when you realize it's not about you, when you see it for what it really is, someone else outsourcing their discomfort, it loses its power. You start to see it like an X-ray of their insecurities, not a verdict on your worth. That shifted everything for me. I began to understand that if I do something bold, if I take a stand, if I live fully as myself, it's going to make people uncomfortable. And the people who can't handle their own discomfort, they're going to criticize, they're going to label, they're going to judge. And if they have low emotional regulation, they're going to do it publicly. But that's not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of them. And the same thing goes the other way. I had to own that when I judged her, it was about me, not her. I didn't like that her success violated my rules about how the world should work. That's on me. And you know what? Here's the ultimate truth. You will be judged no matter what you do. You'll be judged if you play small. You'll be judged if you play big. You'll be judged if you stay silent. You'll be judged if you speak up. You will be misunderstood whether you chase applause or run from criticism. That's just reality. When I first started creating content, I had this ridiculous belief that if I just did everything perfectly, if I structured every word, polished every idea, made it airtight, no one would say anything mean. I thought I could outwork criticism. I thought if I made my arguments bulletproof, everyone would nod and say, wow, she's so smart. She's so thoughtful. We can't possibly criticize her. But that's not how it went down. I poured my heart into my work. I thought I was covering every base. And what happened? For the first year and a half, I got slammed. People came at me from every angle. They questioned my motives, my tone, my success, even my face. It was relentless. And I remember my husband looking at me and saying, damn, you've got it rough. And I laughed because he was right. But it also taught me something I could have never learned any other way. It taught me that no matter how careful you are, no matter how pure your intentions, no matter how valuable your message, people will still project their discomfort onto you. They will still judge. They will still criticize. And if you let that stop you, you're done. If you let that make you small, you've handed over your entire life to people who don't even know who they are. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to live for applause? Are you going to live to avoid criticism? Or are you going to live by your own values, plant your own flag, and let the noise be the noise? Because here's the kicker: judgment isn't a sign you're wrong. Most of the time, it's a sign you're doing something that matters. You're rattling cages. You're disrupting comfort zones. You're forcing people to confront something in themselves they'd rather not see. That's power. That's impact. So don't run from judgment. Don't waste your life contorting yourself to avoid criticism. Accept that it's coming no matter what. And when it does, don't take it as a wound. Take it as confirmation that you're actually out there doing something real. I used to ask myself every single day, why is this happening to me? Why are people saying these things? Why are strangers on the internet dissecting my life like it's some kind of open buffet? And it wasn't just casual comments. It was relentless. It was mean. And it cut deep because the things people chose to focus on were things I didn't even think about. First, it was my voice. People saying, you sound like Ben Shapiro on steroids. You sound like you smoke. What's wrong with that voice coming from? And maybe you're even wondering that yourself. And then came the ones who wanted to tear down everything I'd worked for. Oh, you're only here because of your husband. You're just riding his coattails. Who are you? Where'd you come from? Peasant. And then there were the people who wanted to just erase it all. To discredit me completely. Like the 8 years I spent grinding, building a real business didn't exist at all. Like I just woke up one day, turned on a camera, and decided to play pretend CEO for the internet. And at first I thought, okay, what do I need to change to make these people shut up? What do I need to wear? How do I need to talk? What kind of content do I need to make? Do I have to dress differently? Should I be softer? Should I be louder? What box do they want me in? For 18 months, I drove myself crazy trying to solve a problem that wasn't mine to solve. Then one day I realized nothing about them needed to change. Everything about how I saw it had to, because the price of doing anything that matters, the price of success, the price of visibility, the price of having a voice is criticism. It is not optional. It is just the downside of the upside. And the more I stopped asking for permission to be myself, to speak how I speak, to lead how I lead, to live how I live, the happier I got. But it came with more criticism, not less. And that was the lesson. Applause doesn't mean you're right. Criticism doesn't mean you're wrong. The only judgment that really matters is yours, measured against what you've chosen to stand for. I'll never forget this one guy. To this day, he's like my personal hater. And it's not just some troll with no followers. This guy is known in the space. He has a platform, and he just goes after me constantly. Takes shots, writes posts, tries to dismantle who I am as a person. I've never responded. Not once. I pretend I don't even know he exists. But every time I'd read his stuff, I'd feel that sting. You know, that sting where you want to defend yourself. Where you want to say, no, you're wrong. Let me prove it to you. But over time, I realized something. He wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. We just value different things. He thinks I work too hard. He thinks I sacrifice too much. He thinks I'm too intense. And I could sit there all day and post photos of myself on vacation, show off that I take care of my health, prove I have a great marriage. But why? For him? To win his approval. No. The truth is, we're just different. He values balance. He values health and relaxation and doing business in a way that lets him spend his afternoons however he wants. And that's fine for him. But I value sacrifice. I value resilience. I value discipline. I value building something bigger than myself, even if it costs me comfort. And neither of us is wrong. We just have different metrics for what matters. And when I feel that icky feeling looking at him, it's because I don't share his values. I don't respect his unwillingness to sacrifice. I don't admire doing the bare minimum just to maintain comfort. And I'm sure when he looks at me, he feels the same. He doesn't respect my intensity, my competitiveness, my drive. But that's not a me problem. That's not a me-him problem. That's just life. The real trap is thinking every criticism requires a response, or worse, requires you to change. But the truth is, your values are your filter. If someone criticizes you for something that doesn't violate your values, who cares? If someone says, you're not soft to life, you don't do fun hobbies, I'm like, yeah, you're right, I don't. Next question. But if someone said, you're dishonest, that would hit me hard, because honesty is my number one value. That would make me stop and ask, what? Was I dishonest in that moment? And if I was, I'd have to fix it. Not because they told me to, but because it violates who I've chosen to be. And that's what I want you to understand. You can't use other people as your compass. You can't build a life asking, will they like me if I do this? The only question that matters is, does this align with the values I've chosen? Because when you live that way, you stop being pulled apart by every opinion, comment, every hater with Wi-Fi. I made a video a while back. It was a skit, something fun, something I just wanted to try. And it went viral, like 20 million views viral. And people came to me saying, hey, I don't know if you should do skits. You don't want to be famous for that. It's too silly. It's not your brand. And I had to stop and ask myself, not, do they like it? Do I like it? Does it fit my values? And the answer was yes. I liked making it. I liked creating it. And that's enough, because you can spend your whole life trying to fit the mold of what other people expect. How you should talk, how you should act, how you should live. And it will never be enough. There will always be someone who hates you for being too loud and someone else who hates you for being too quiet. Someone who says you're too feminine and someone who says you're not feminine enough. Someone who says you're working too hard and someone who says you're not working hard enough. And if you let every one of those voices steer your ship, you'll never leave the dock. You'll just sit there spinning in circles, exhausted, wondering why you're not happy. But the moment you decide, really decide, what you stand for and what matters to you, it's like the noise fades. Not because it goes away, but because it stops mattering. The criticism doesn't sting the same way. The praise doesn't seduce you the same way. You stop living for applause and you stop letting for hate. You just live, and you live free. So now, when people come for me, I ask one question: is what they're saying aligned with my values? If yes, I'll listen. I'll fix it. If no, I'll smile, nod, and move on. Because at the end of the day, the only scoreboard that counts is the one you set for yourself. And the truth is, the more you live your life on your terms, the more criticism you're going to get. But here's the plot twist: the happier you'll be. Because you're finally living for you, not for them. I remember sitting there thinking, wait, I actually think this is exactly my brand. I'm intense. I'm direct. I can also be hilarious. What are we even talking about here? And it hit me, people weren't really giving me advice. They were giving me their preferences. And for a long time, I let other people's preferences run my life. But now, before I make a move, I run everything through one filter: my values. My number one value is honesty. So I asked myself, was that video honest? And the answer was yes. I genuinely thought it was funny. I genuinely act like that. I genuinely enjoyed making it. So why would I kill a part of myself to make someone else more comfortable? That's when I realized something huge. I had sponge eye thins, not because they aligned with my values, but because they avoided judgment. I wasn't making decisions from strength. I was making them from fear. And it's wild how easy it is to do that. To live your life in this quiet, invisible prison. Constantly adjusting yourself so people don't talk about you, so you can sidestep their criticism, so no one points at you and says, what's wrong with her? I used to think values were something you just find. Like they're hiding under a rock somewhere or written in the stars. But they're not. You don't stumble across your values by accident. You choose them. You decide. And that's where most people go wrong. They inherit their values from their parents, from their religion, from Instagram, from TikTok, from whoever's loudest in their life. And then one day they wake up and go, why does this feel awful? Why do I hate my life? Why do I feel off track? It's because they never consciously chose who they wanted to be. They just absorbed it. But when you make that decision intentionally, when you define what you stand for and you actually live it out, your life gets so much simpler. Notice I didn't say easier. Sometimes it gets harder. Sometimes you will lose people. Sometimes you will be misunderstood. But it gets simpler because you stop chasing applause. You stop bending over backward for approval. And you stop running from criticism. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. For years, every time somebody criticized me, I scrambled to prove them wrong. Oh, you think I don't take care of myself? Let me show you. Oh, you think I'm not soft enough? Let me fix that. I lived in constant reaction mode. And let me tell you, there is no worse place to live than in the prison of other people's opinions. You become this ghost of yourself, a reflection of whatever they want you to be. But when you choose your values, when you anchor yourself in something solid that no comment, no headline, no stranger on the internet can touch, you get free. Real freedom isn't doing whatever you want whenever you want. Real freedom is living in a way where nobody else's judgment can knock you off course. People ask me all the time, Leila, how do you deal with criticism? How do you get over all these people judging you? And I tell them the truth: you don't. You don't get over it. You just anchor so deeply in who you've chosen to be that it doesn't control you anymore. You make peace with the fact that judgment's the price of being alive, the price of being visible, the price of doing anything meaningful. When you have strong values, you will be criticized. That's the trade-off. And here's the twist. That criticism is actually a sign that you're living your life with clarity. Because when you live in a way that's potent, when you embody what you believe so strongly, people who don't share your values are going to feel it. And some of them will run in the opposite direction, screaming about how crazy you are. And that's okay. Let them. Because the flip side is beautiful. When you live in alignment with your values, you get to do the stuff that makes you happy. You get to make decisions that feel good at the end of the day when you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying your choices. And even if people hate you for it, you can still look at yourself in the mirror and feel proud. For me, honesty is everything. If someone came to me and said, Leila, you're dishonest, I would stop dead in my tracks. I'd replay everything I said and did to see if I violated that. Because that will matter to me. But if someone comes and says, Leila, you're too intense. You don't do fun hobbies. You're too masculine. You're too disciplined. I just nod and go, yeah, you're right. That's true. And I'm okay with that. That's what living by your values does. It gives you a filter. You stop asking, do they like me? And you start asking, does this align with who I've decided to be? And if the answer is yes, you keep moving. If the answer is no, you fix it. But not because you're scared of judgment, because it violates your own standard. The craziest thing happens when you live that way. You stop being pulled apart by the applause and the hate. Both lose their power over you. You realize applause doesn't mean you're right, and criticism doesn't mean you're wrong. The only scorecard that matters is the one you choose. And that's where real confidence comes from. Not from being liked, not from having 1 million followers, not from people cheering for you. Real confidence comes from knowing deep down that you are living in alignment with who you've chosen to be, no matter what anyone says about you. So here's what I live by now. Values are not feelings. You don't feel them, you decide them. You make a call. You say, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. And then you build your life around that. And when you do, you stop drifting. You stop becoming this hollow version of yourself that's built out other people's demands. You stop being a ghost of yourself. You become solid. You become unshakable. And yeah, people will criticize you even more, but you won't care because you're not living for them anymore. You're living for you. That's the secret. That's where the real power is. And if you're watching this right now, wondering how to get there, wondering how to stop being crushed by what people think, you start by choosing. You choose your values. You anchor yourself so deeply in them that no opinion, no applause, no hate, no trend, no stranger with a keyboard can knock you off your path. And that's when you finally start living your life, not theirs.